Okay, so let's begin today's training. So my name is Eric Chow, and I'm the research support manager at the library. And together with me today actually is my colleagues, Rebecca Wong, the head of digital initiative and research cluster at the library, and also Mr. Edmund Leung. He's from the graduate school. Okay, now today's training mainly will be on the RRAMS publication module on how to input publication records, as well as I understand that because today's audience mainly is postgraduate students. Okay, however, depending on whether you are RPG students or whether you're TPG doctoral students, you will actually use a different system to input your dissertation, because I understand that many of you want to input your dissertation so that it will showcase to the rest of the world. So I'm going to now quickly invite Mr. Edmund Leung from the graduate school to just briefly explain that policy with you and also show you how you can do that outside IRAM system. And then after that, after Edmund show you that, and then I will actually carry on with the IRAMS training. Okay, so I'll hand the floor to Edmund now. I'll stop sharing my screen. So Edmund, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll stop sharing the screen.
Thank you, Eric.
I'll give you the floor then. Thank you, Edmund.
Screen. So, hello everybody. This is Edmund from graduate school. I will introduce you online thesis submission for research postgraduate students. And for postgraduate students, please find your department if you need to submit thesis. So please pay attention if you are a PhD or MPhil students in the upcoming 5 minutes, and your study life will become much more easier. So the first one, I will introduce you a useful link, which is study journey from current student research postgraduate program. And you can find a thesis submission here. So I will introduce you this year a very important change on thesis submission. We have digitalized the thesis submission process, and you can look at the user guide. Actually, you have 3 forms to submit in total. The first one is for examination. The second one, we write thesis for format check. And the final one is final thesis for graduation. Before submitting the first thesis for examination, you have to ensure that your oral examination and thesis are ready, and then you can upload your document on BUnitPod. And this is the form on the top left-hand side. This is really important. The guideline, you should have read it before your submission. And the uploading document should be your thesis, similarity report, and any supporting document if necessary. You may wonder, how can I find my similarity report? Actually, it's in the previous page, thesis submission. And you can find the similarity report here. Actually, it's in Moodle, GS8008. And we go back to the user guide. You can find the interface of the first form for examination. Actually, after your submission to the system, it will be endorsed by your principal supervisor, department, and it will go to the circulation to the examination board. And the second form for format checking, After you have received your exam results and the exam board has recommended you to have minor changes, then you can upload document here, upload file, and type something if any. You have to upload your thesis, a memo from your PS with the approval of examination board. Also with the approval of the chair. And we'll send you back an acceptance page, suggestion if any, by email after you have completed the format checking. And we come to the final one for graduation. The document you have to upload is final thesis with thesis acceptance page, the abstract, and also if your embargo date is more than 2 years, you have to approve by your principal supervisor and also upload that document. Normally, students will set it as open access, which is leaving it blank, the embargo date. And thesis will transfer to iRIMS. And your thesis can be searched in the internet for open access. So we have finished all 3 thesis forms you have to submit. And a gentle reminder, you have to ensure that you have fulfilled all your graduation requirements before you submit your online thesis. And you can check it in our handbook, Guideline and Procedure for Research Postgraduate Students, Section 15. And all are listed here. And also, if you are a 4-year PhD students, you can download a form in the download area. For graduation, for your graduation requirement fulfillment. This is for 4-year PhD students. You should fill in the form with your personal particulars, publication, oral or poster presentation, and endorsed by the relevant party, PS, department head, faculty dean, as well as graduate school. So, do you have any questions about online thesis submission? You can ask here in the chat box, or you can simply speak. For any questions, you can also find us through the email, and our email address is hkbu_rpg@hkbu.edu.hk. Presentation.
So Edmund, it seems like Benjamin has a question in the chat box.
Yeah, after presentation is fine. Are there any questions? If you don't have any questions, we'll pass the time to Eric.
I'm sorry, may I?
Yes.
This is Alessandro speaking. I'm not really sure whether I should ask my question right now about the embargo period. Should I ask it now or later on after the following presentation? As the embargo period was mentioned, I'm not really sure if...
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because library is here.
So can I ask it now or later at the end of
sure,
it?
you can ask here.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that, you know, with the new system launch, the 2-year embargo period is actually confirmed.
I think the student is asking about the SIS system in terms of embargo arrangement. So could GS give him an answer?
Can you repeat again?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask whether with the launch of the new platform, the 2 years embargo period for the dissertation is still confirmed as it was before, as it has been so far, let's say.
It can be open access within 2 years, as well as more than 2 years. However, if you set the dates for more than 2 years, you need to have justification from your principal supervisor. Can I address your problem?
And so the request has to be submitted at the 3rd submission after we receive the confirmation page, the acceptance page, I'm sorry, right? So like the final step, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions regarding the online thesis submission? So if no further questions, we may pass to Eric.
Okay, great. Thank you, Edmund. So hopefully that was clear on how to use the SIS systems to submit your electronic thesis, especially for RPG students as well as TPG doctoral students. Okay. All right. So now let me just go back to my workshop. Right. So so basically there are three things that I'll be covering today. So how do we use the IRIMS to create a new platform to create and modify research output records? Especially for students who already are, in the track of publishing on journals. And I'll also show you the link where you can also submit your dissertation, but notice that these are only applicable for TPG master students. The rest of you have to submit it through the SIS, as Edmund has mentioned. I'll also show you how to edit your researcher profile and also create a personal CV. So hopefully that will also help you later on in your job search after your graduation. Okay. Now, I'd like to point you to this IRIMS user guide, which is basically a guide put together by the library.
Sorry, Eric. We can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, yes, I forgot to share screen after Edmund's sharing. Sorry about that. Let me just share that now. Can you see the screen now? Okay, great. Sorry about that. Okay, so just quickly, so 3 objectives for today. Okay, the research output record, edit your researcher profile, and create your personal CV. Okay, so we have the IRIMS user guide, so which is really useful. So even if you don't, if you forget most of the stuff that I talked about for the rest of this workshop, do go back to this link here. And because most of the stuff I'll be going through are actually documented here. In fact, this is so useful that I'll just copy and paste this link for you in the chat box. So you can fire it up or bookmark it now. Okay. Okay. All right, so you just simply take out your phone, QR code this, and you can have it on your phone for reference. Okay. So let me just really quickly go to that IRIMS guide and show you what that is. Okay, so you can see basically it explains everything about the publication module of IRIMS. All right, so what is the IRIMS? IRIMS is the Integrated Research Information Management System, okay? Now, of course, student users is one important aspect. We also, another really important aspects are for faculty members at HKBU. So we have we actually have 3 different sections in the IRIMS: the grant management module, the publication backend, and the research portal, which is open to public. Now, the grant management, you don't really need to worry about that because that's more for the HKBU faculty members. So our concern basically today is the publication backend. Okay. Now, both of these grant management and the publication backend, they are protected by SSO ID. So you need to use your SSO ID to log in, your HKBU ID. The research portal is open to public, so anyone can see it. So I'm just going to really quickly show you what that research portal look like in case if you haven't seen it. Okay, so the URL is called scholars.hkbu.edu.hk. So basically, it is a public portal where anyone from outside world can search for anything related to HKBU research outputs. From the scholars, the faculty members' name, to the department's name, to research output, to projects and grants and prize and awards. Okay, so they can search for that here. They also provide a numerical summary of the HKBU research effort. Now, more importantly, more applicable to research postgraduate students. So it also has a list of student theses. Okay, here. Okay, so people can actually access the thesis directly from the portal. Okay, so moving on the homepage, a little bit of textual description of the website, and also the kind of collaboration that HKBU faculty member has with the rest of the world. Okay. Now we also have this little thing here called fingerprint technology. Okay, so I'll explain a little bit more later on in the presentation because I believe postgraduate students also have this kind of technology applied to their profile as well. But basically, it's big data technology from the platform that kind of extract from your dissertation or from your research output on the type of research that you're engaged in. I'll explain a little bit more later in the presentation. Okay, so that's the homepage, and let's just really quickly look at a little bit 1 or 2 pages deeper. So let's say, for example, someone from the outside world wants to search for a particular faculty member, Professor Kara Chan, for example. Okay, so it will show, so this is a faculty member from the Department of Communication. Okay, so as you can see, it has a link to Kara's profile. It also has a list of her output record, or research output records, projects, etc. Okay, now we can click on Kara's name, and she actually has a public profile. Okay, now for you guys, for the postgraduate student, unfortunately, you do not have a public profile. Okay, so you do not have a profile like this. Now, of course, if you move on to become, let's say, HKBU faculty member after you graduate, you get hired back by HKBU, then you will have a public profile like this if you become a full-time teaching member, teaching faculty. However, postgraduate students at this moment do not have a public profile, okay? However, if you remember in one of the learning objectives of this workshop, I'll still show you how to process your profile because that's going to be important for generating your CV, okay? So I'll show you in a minute, okay? But just to know that distinction, postgraduate students do not have a public profile, okay? However, if, let's say, the public look for, let's say they search for your thesis title and they found your thesis. Let's say, for example, if you are this particular person and you happen to submit your thesis into the system, and when people click onto this link, they will still see a copy of your thesis information about your thesis here. However, they cannot click on your name, okay, because you do not have a public profile, like, for example, our faculty member does, okay? So that's the distinction between faculty member and you guys, so your status as a postgraduate student. Okay, so that's kind of a taste of what the IRIMS is about on the public front end, okay? Okay, so now let's really get to the demonstration part on how do you go about inputting, if you're already publishing papers in journals, how do you input this into the system, okay? So just for demonstration purpose, I'll show you one, example of how a publication output actually looks like. So if you, let's say if you publish a paper, and this is what that research output will look like in, by public, okay? And you can see that, you have things like abstract, page number, again, fingerprints. So it actually extract, the kind of research that this paper is related to, and also citation, okay? Now, notice that because you are a research student, people, again, cannot click on your name. So your name will be like this, okay? So people cannot click onto it, but your name will still show up here, okay? And the people who are clickable would most likely be faculty members, okay? All right, so let's now take a look at how do you go about inputting this kind of a research output record into the IRIM system, okay? Now the official website or the URL for this is basically scholars.hkbu.edu.hk/admin, okay? Now, if you have a computer, if you have your computer on right now, you can follow along. You're welcome to follow along. Okay, so just basically log in using my SSO ID. Oops, sorry. Just type it again. Okay, so now actually your view is going to be slightly different from mine because I'm more like an administrative user. So I'm going to really quickly show you. So I don't have like, oh, actually I do. So your profile would probably look like this. So let me just quickly open up one student profile. So your profile is going to look quite simple, probably, okay? Because if you have not inputted anything into your into the IRIMS, yours is going to have like a name and some links and probably an empty publication research output list, okay? But I'm just going to show you just for demonstration purpose, okay, from a faculty member. So I'm going to use Professor Kara Chan's profile again. So if you start populating your research output into IRIMS, you're actually going to have things like this, like, a summary of your research output, okay, here. Now, of course, Kara is a seasoned, faculty member, so she has a lot, and you probably have, a lot less, okay, but you have something like this, okay. All right, so how do we go about inputting a research output record? Well, there's this big button here called Add Content, and you should have that also on your profile if you log in, okay? Or after you log in into the admin panel, okay? All right, so I'm going to show you now. So click on Add Content, okay? I'll actually use my own profile to show you because there's actually some data in there already, so that would be a better demonstration. So once I click on Add Content, you have many different things that you can add in, okay? Now, today's focus is going to be research output, so I'm just going to click here. Okay, and let's say that you already start publishing and you want to input a journal article in here, right? Then you can start with contribution to journal. Okay. However, before you click on that, okay, I would strongly suggest you to also look 2 links down. Okay. Now, for me, I have something called candidates in Scopus. Okay, so I click on that. Now, basically, what this IRIMS does is that it will periodically go to the Scopus citation database. Okay, so Scopus is a citation database that's owned by the company Elsevier, which created the system. So it will automatically, go there and take a look if they already have something in their database. And if they have, they will say that is under your name. They will say, well, would you like to import this into IRIMS? Okay. Now, using this kind of importing method is going to save you a lot of time. So let's say, for example, if you already have published paper and it's already documented in Scopus, I strongly suggest you use this link here. Now, I know some of you also have ORCID ID. Okay, so ORCID is another citation database. I would also suggest you to look into import from online sources and then click on ORCID ID. Now, I'm going to just quickly demonstrate this to you because I also happen to have an ORCID ID and have some research output there. So all you need to do is just go to your ORCID ID, copy it, and then go back to your Add Content and click on here, paste and search. then actually it will try to look for, so these are already some papers that I've written previously, and that is ready to import into this IREAM system. So this is going to save you a lot of time in terms of, typing in the forms, filling in the form information. Okay, but still, I'll still go through that today with you so that you know what's, you can get a feel of what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this import from Scopus because I have one candidate here. I click on import. Now this is a paper that I've previously authored as in 2016. So it's not in the IREAM system yet. Okay. On the first page, I don't really need to worry about this because it's just confirming who are the authors. I'll click on import and review. Okay, so this is basically the main page I'll go through that you need to fill. So as you can see, quite a bit of text field here. So I strongly suggest that, if you have the import function, use it because it will save you a lot of time to copy and pasting. Okay. So I'll try to go through this field here. The red stars are mandatory fields. Okay, so first one is quite obvious, peer review or not. Okay, so you can fill in that, select that status. Publication status, so whether your paper has already been published. Okay, now of course, if you want, you can still, let's say for your own housekeeping purpose, you can still submit or input a publication record here that is not published yet. Okay, now for me, because it's already published, so I can say it's published 2016. However, if you are just doing it for your own housekeeping record, you can select, for example, it is submitted but not reviewed or not accepted by any journal. You can still do that. But pay attention that only the items that are published, that has this published status, will be shown in the public portal. Okay, so if you have other ones like submitted or impressed or accepted, they will not show up in the public portal. Okay, so that's the distinction between this couple of different status. Moving on, publication information, these are quite obvious. Language, title of your paper, subtitle of your paper, abstracts. You can just copy and paste from your paper. Page number of pages. So here are the authors of the paper. So if you, let's say, because this is importing, so we already found 3 authors. One of them is me. Okay. If you have actually co-authored this, let's say with your boss, with your supervisor, then you can add person here. And then search for for example, your boss's or your supervisor's name. For example, if your research supervisor happens to be Kara, I can just search for her name and then click on her name here. Okay, and then click create, and you would, input her as the 4th author. Okay, now notice that when I try to use this add person, it already tried to search for people from HKBU. Now, if you happen to be, because sometimes research can be a collaboration between HKBU and different universities, then if there's a co-author from another university, you click on create external person, okay, on this link here, and say, let's say, for example, I have John Chan from the CUHK. Okay, so let's say if I'm collaborating with CUHK or your boss is collaborating with you and CUHK, then you can click on trying to find the Chinese university. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not showing up, but let's try it again. Add organizational unit. Create external. Actually, no, search. Actually, here I can already do this in the search here. Chinese university. Okay, so Chinese University of Hong Kong. So try to use that search function as much as you can, because it will again save you a lot of time so that you don't have to type up, the information manually. Okay. So let's say now I have John Chan from CUHK as an author, as a co-author of the paper. Then I click create. Then I have added John Chan as the 5th author. Okay. I can also move the author's order around by clicking on the arrow. Okay. So that would edit, or that would let you play with the contributors field here. Okay, moving on, publication managed by. So basically this is the department which you're enrolled in. Okay, so by default, you should have like a department you're currently enrolled in here. Okay, but if not, then of course you can click on add and then choose your appropriate department. Okay, now this is going to be the department that approves this publication record. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about approval process later. But basically, if you click on the save button at the bottom, okay, you're not going to see this publication record immediately in the public portal. So someone from your department will be approving it. Okay, so that's just one thing that you have to pay attention to. Journal name. So you can, of course, this one already is the computer-aided design application. It was published already. But of course, you can also change or add the journal name. Let's say, for example, again, using the search function, I can search for something. If I'm from chemistry, then I can search for my journal name. And then, so this way you can do the search and click so that you don't have to do a manual input of the things like, journal name and the ISSN number. So it will automatically populate that for you. Volume and issue number, of course, that's something you should also input in there. Now, notice that if you're importing your record from ORCID ID, we found that actually sometimes this volume and issue number would not be translated from or would not be imported properly from ORCID ID. So if you see this two field empty, please fill them in appropriately. Okay. Open access guidance. Now, open access is something that not covered in this workshop. Is actually quite an important issue that you should be aware of. So I'm going to give you a link here that shows you if you're not familiar with what open access means. Okay, so our library has a scholarly communication guide, which you can check out. Okay, I'm going to paste that onto a chat box right now. So here on the left-hand side, there's this whole section about open access. Okay, you can read all about that here. Okay. Okay, so basically this session here, okay, so open access guidance. So this session here basically just gives you an information about whether this journal, what is the open access policy for this journal, okay? So it will tell you the open access policy for submitted version, accepted version, published version, and the publisher's policies, okay? So you can read about them here. Again, I'm not going to go into detail. If you need to find out what they are, check with your publisher and also check the scholarly communication guide. Okay. Electronic versions of your files. So if you're writing a publication, then we'll strongly suggest that you upload your manuscript here. Okay. By pressing the upload file button. Now, of course, you also should check the open access policy with the publisher as well. And most of the time, if you're publishing this or writing a paper together with your supervisor, they will also give you some advice on, the open access policy. So check with them as well if you're unsure what that is. Okay. Now, if there's any additional link, for example, if this paper is already published and are already on the publisher's website, open access, then you can also include that link here by adding the link. Okay. Also, if you have other relevant files related to this publication, for example, if your publication have some images or some videos explaining something in addition to the paper, then you can also add the file here. Now, notice that actually, when I talk about video, okay, because especially for some of you who are from AVA or from Faculty of Arts, maybe your publication is not always just journal article. Maybe it is some sort of performance or exhibitions. You have some videos documenting them. We strongly suggest that you do not upload files that are really large, like for example, multiple gigabytes of videos. We don't recommend you to upload it here, okay? What we recommend is that you upload them to Vimeo or YouTube or other streaming platforms and then include a link here because it's gonna take up a lot of space and also the uploading might be really slow, okay? So that's what I want to talk about in terms of the file upload here, okay? Okay, so categorization for data analysis, you don't really need to be concerned about these, okay? These are more for faculty members for submitting reports to the Rgc to the government, okay? But do notice about this open access route. So if you do know what your open access route is, please input it here. Choose the appropriate one, gold OA or green OA, okay? Again, if you're not sure what that is, check with your supervisor or check the scholarly communication guide, okay? Or also check your publisher, okay? But here, choose the appropriate one associated that's related to your publication record. KT activity, again, are more applicable for faculty members. If you're not sure, check with your supervisor. All right, so Scopus subject area, this is something that you can input it yourself, okay? And I strongly recommend that you do this more accurately. So here, basically, you can assign this particular subject area related to your paper. Okay, so let's say, for example, if I'm from computer science, and I can actually find a particular topic in computer science that accurately describe my publication output. For example, if my thing is, if my computer publication is about signal processing. So I click on signal processing, then it will add that category in here, okay? Now, if you feel that actually this predefined subject area is not applicable or cannot accurately describe your research output, then I would suggest you to use the user-defined keyword here, okay? To accurately describe label your research output, okay? Because this is actually inputting an accurate information here on subject area and user-defined keyword is going to help you to make your work more discoverable in the public portal. So people actually, it will make it easier for people to search for your work in the public portal, okay? By having accurate label of your paper. Moving on, Rgc requirement, this you don't need to worry about, or if you are suspicious that you need to input this information, please check with your supervisor because they should be the one who is handling the things like article processing charge or I expense report. So these check with your supervisor on this, okay? Or just ignore them if you do not have that information. Okay, event, you don't need to worry about this. It is not relevant to the publication record. In fact, we're trying to get rid of this button later on. Okay, so just ignore this event button. Now here, relations, that's more important. Try to, let's say, for example, if you're aware that your supervisor is have this particular grant and you're helping him to publish paper under this particular grant or projects, try to add that link or relations to that grant or project, because later on it's going to help actually help your supervisor or help the university administration generate report in a much better manner, okay? So if you're not sure, check with your supervisor as well, okay? But here you can actually, let's say, for example, if you happen to know that your supervisor is having this grant project and it is called, for example, the first one here, a community action program in empowering newly retired persons to be health ambassadors. Let's say you're aware that your supervisor is having this project and you are directly your research output is directly funded by this, then you should add that relation here, okay? Because this is going to help your supervisor much better in report generation later, and also help the university administration to create report later, okay? Visibility, we strongly recommend you have this public, okay, because so that everyone can see this record, publication record on the public portal. But of course, if you are just halfway through entering this public record, or if you for some reason, let's say you just want to do this as a housekeeping purpose, then you can always input this as confidential so that only you and your supervisor can look at this later on, okay? But we highly recommend you to be having it in the public portal, okay, with no restriction. To select this option here. External publication ID, you don't really need to worry about this. This only shows up because I'm importing this from the Scopus database. If you see this, fine. If not, just ignore this, okay? So that's pretty much the whole form of the publication record. Okay, if you are inputting a publication record related to the journal article, okay? Now, for here, after you finish inputting everything, okay, you go to the bottom, and then you see there's a word called for approval. Now, you can select entry in progress. If you're halfway through inputting your information and you want to come back to this later, then you can select entry in progress. And then later on, you can come back to this form. But if you have finished inputting everything, click on for approval and then press save, okay? Now, after that, after you press save, your department will have someone to kind of look over your record and just make sure that you are who you are. So just making sure that this record is accurate, and then they will approve it. After approval, the workflow is it will come to us, the library, and then we'll do some validation for you. So in terms of validating the open access policies, for example, journal information, we'll do this kind of validation, and then it will get pushed to the public portal. So that's why actually, even if you press save here, you're not going to immediately see it in the public portal. You still have to wait for your department's approval and also the validation from the library, okay? So that's why I want to talk to you about this, the save here, okay? Okay, so that's inputting publication record for journal article. Now, I know many of you are interested to input, especially for TPG master's degree, input your thesis directly on here. So I'm going to show you quickly where that is. Okay, so let's say I'm just going to pretend that I am a PG student. I'll switch user here. Okay, so let's say I'm using Cornelia's profile. So I have something like this. Again, I go to add content if I want to add my dissertation, and then you can see here student thesis. Okay. And of course, TPG master's degree can directly input your thesis here. Then you choose here. Okay, so pretty obvious or straightforward information, title, abstracts, which department you belong to, very similar to the publication form I show you. Okay, okay, who your supervisor is, your award information. Again, user-defined keyword, subject area, same as what I told you about. And you can also upload your the actual electronic thesis PDF file here by clicking on the add document. Okay, if you have other links, you're welcome to add it to here as well. Again, relations. Now here I'm not exactly sure, but check with the supervisor if whether he or she wants you to relate this thesis to his or her report, research output, or any other activities. So check with supervisors on this. And of course, visibility, you want to make your thesis visible to the outside world, then you can choose public here, okay? So very similar to the publication record or journal article I've shown you before, okay? So this is how you would enter it. Okay, so, but again, just like what Edmund said, only our PG students, PhD or MPhil, and TPG doctoral, they need to input the thesis in the SIS. Only TPG master's degree student input it here, okay? And better yet, check with your own department, okay? So whether you can directly input your thesis directly in IRIMS, okay? So if in doubt, check with your department on this, okay? Because I believe every department may have slightly different policy. So do check with your department or your supervisor on this, okay? All right, so now for the last remaining 15 minutes, I'll show you the more the information or how do you go about working with your profile. Okay, now unfortunately you do not have a public profile, but still you want to go into the edit profile link here, okay, and check whether your information are correct or not, because these are actually synchronized from your student record into the system here. Okay, so make sure if you find that actually your name is not correct or some typo spelling errors, then you go, or maybe your title is not correct, then you click on the edit, okay, and then do your editing here and then press update. Okay, because this is going to directly affect your CV creation later in the next step. Okay, so even though you do not have a public profile, it's important to maintain an accurate record on your profile. Okay, and if you have any ORCID ID, we suggest you also input that here as well. Okay, and just basically copy and paste your ORCID ID here. Photo we also suggest you to add a photo, although you don't have a public profile, but this will actually show up in your CV generation. Okay, if you add a photo here. Okay, so if you want a photo on your CV, then you add one here. All right, so you have other things like, your affiliation, this should automatically be inputted for you already, okay? But if you find that it's wrong, or you have, for, whatever odd reason, you have multiple association, then, you input it here. And then if you happen to have any position outside institution or any other education or qualification, professional qualification, you're welcome to also input that here as well. Okay. Keywords. Now this is more for faculty members because they need to do report generation later on, but probably not really applicable to you. Okay, so don't worry about this categorization for data analysis. And again, this is more for faculty members. They need to be taking PhD students so they can indicate that here, but not applicable for you guys. Finally, you want, this is also not relevant because the public is not going to see your publication, your profile anyway, so it doesn't matter whether you set this to visible or not. Okay, so mainly is the names and your affiliation that you have to check and make sure that your profile are correct. Okay, because this is going to directly affect your CV creation. Okay, so again, when you log in, click on the edit profile and you can check all this information here. All right, now once you're happy with your profile, all the information that are correct, then you can click on. So we're now in the final part. How do we create a CV? Click on Add Curriculum Vitae here. Okay, and then you'll see there are two options: private CV or public CV. So let's say, for example, just before you graduate, you want to, just for the sake of, maybe job searching later on, then you want to create a private CV according to the output record, the research record you have inputted into the system already. You can click on private CV. Okay. Now here, because I'm using a dummy student profile, so I don't have a lot of information here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to some other account that has more information, so that this will be a better demonstration for you. Okay, I'll use Kara's profile to generate a CV. Okay, now I already generated a CV previously, so I'm just going to erase that and show you from the beginning. Okay. All right, so you should see something like this, right? So your profile, again, click on Add Curriculum Vitae. Okay, so again, private CV or public CV. Public CV, that's more applicable for BU faculty member because they have a public profile. But for you, you'll just be using the private CV, okay? Because you don't have a public profile anyway. So click on private CV. Now, this one, Keras has a lot more data. So you can see, let's say if you have inputted some research output record already in your profile, then I can automatically generate a CV based on my input. Okay, so I choose on my CV, I want to include my personal profile, my profile information. Now you may not have employments yet, so I'm going to skip that. So let's say I have research output, right, that I want to include in my CV. And I click on create. Okay, so you can see this is Kara's CV. Okay, of course, you have your own version with your own photo if you do that on your own profile. Okay, so this is a CV with Kara's publication record. Now, of course, Kara has a lot of publication record because she has been working at HKBU for a long time. So I'm not sure if any of you will reach this stage, but in case if you do, what you can do is, if I want to shorten the list, let's say I don't want to just show my recent records, I can click on edit here. I can include maximum of, let's say, 5 publication record. Okay, if I have more than 5, I just want to show my most recent 5. I can also do filtering, like I only want to show, let's say, for example, I have conference proceedings. Okay, I just want to show them. I also want to show the ones that are most recent, let's say 2010 to 2021. Okay, I can limit this kind of things here. And once I'm happy, then I click OK. Then you can see that my CV is now shortened to, much shorter, just 5 items, right? Now, what happens if I want to edit individual item in here? I can click on edit again, and then scroll to the bottom and say make static. Okay, so this case, it will actually make this list what they call a static list. So you can see if I mouse over this, it will say static list here. So in this way, if there's a particular record that I don't want to show, let's say, for example, you have been to many conferences and you have a lot of conference proceedings already. Some of them I just want to delete because it's not relevant. I don't want to show it on my CV. Then you can make it a static list and then click on the cross sign here, and you can delete a particular one. Okay. You can also move them around like this. Okay. Using the up and down arrow, or simply just use this, the cross arrow, and then move it around. Okay. Now, once I'm happy, once I finish doing my CV, oh, one thing actually is quite useful. If you want to add additional information, there's one handy tool, which I think should be quite useful for many people, periodic lists. So let's say, for example, you have some achievements throughout the years that is outside your publication record. Let's say, for example, you volunteer for particular student committee, or you were some sort of reviewer on some conference board. Then you can do this here. You can create a custom chronological list. Okay, all you need to do is go click edit. And let's say, for example, I was the student helper at so-and-so conference. I can do something like that. Okay, and then it will actually let me create a list, a chronological list of achievement that I've made previously. Okay, so that would be something quite useful. Okay, so now once I'm happy with this one-page CV, ready to go, then what I can do is I can go to the bottom and say download as PDF or download as Word document. Okay, and then it will download that CV, what you're viewing here right now, as a PDF file or Word document. Now I can also have multiple versions of my CV. So let's say I have a long CV and a short CV. I want to have both versions ready. So in case, later on, if I want to apply for jobs that's asking me for both versions or different versions, then I can provide them immediately. So let's say this is my short CV. I can press save. So once I press save, sorry, my periodic list is not complete. Okay, so let me just save now again. So now after I press save, you should notice that on your curriculum vitae, you have number 1 here. Okay, and then so you can click on this, and then you will see I already have one version of the CV available, right? Now here is where you can create multiple versions of a CV. So if I actually click add again, I create another long version CV, I can save it and it will also show up here. Okay. Okay, so I think that's all about the demonstration that I wanted to do. So let me just do a quick recap of what I've shown you. Okay, so just a recap. I've shown you how to create or modify your own research output record, and also especially for TPG Masters students, how to input your dissertation, electronic dissertation on IRIMS. I also show you that you should edit your researcher profile because it's important to do that. Although you don't have a public profile, but it is important for creating your CV because it will actually, the creation will actually pull data out from your researcher profile into your CV.